Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sehl from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart. And this is Dr. Donald Mars. He's with me again, fortunately for me and for him, because we're having a good time making these videos. So we're having a little struggle trying to get them down to under 14 hours. Well, I'm only kidding, I'm exaggerating. So now we're gonna start. And we're going to talk about Dr. Donald Mars is a psychoanalyst in private practice and has many, many years of training as a psychoanalyst, and I have also many years. So we're going to talk about the training of a psychoanalyst and how that differs from other training that people have in psychotherapy and other fields like counseling or whatever. We're going to talk about what's important to us about our training.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Let me state that our training makes us different than what we often hear from people. Oh, you guys just listen. You don't say anything. I could talk to my bartender, my barber, my friend, my significant other, and get more and get better stuff from them than I can from you because you guys don't say anything. That's normally considered, I normally think about that as someone who's making some excuse not to come in to talk about something. The fact is that, we are different. It's a body of knowledge that we spent a lot of time in mastering and learning, which we really have to digest so that we understand what someone's saying. There's also a personal side which involves our own analysis, our own therapy, which is usually more extensive than other people's because we really have to really be aware of ourselves. We never know who's going to walk into our office and what they might say that might stir up feelings in us that we might not be comfortable with or aware of, which would not be good for the therapy. So that's a very important pillar as well. There's also the matter of training. We go through years of supervision, regular supervision. We go through years of case conferencing. We hear other people presenting cases. We hear how they do. We hear the mistakes. We hear what they do is what great things they do, what some things they do that not so good. Then we go through a special kind of training, which is unique. We have one person that we talk to about covering one of our patients who we're seeing intensively, sometimes 3-4 times a week sometimes. And they follow us on that one case so that we get to see how we handle the material and how we respond to the material, how we understand the material. And that's very different than anybody else. We don't try to engage in conversation so that it becomes like a friendship of, oh, you share this with me, I'll share this with you. Or if it's something sexual, we don't hit on the other person. If it's angry material, we don't, close off because of that. If it's all kinds of stuff that we have to come to terms with, which makes our listening very different than other people's listening. Now, the difference between an analyst and a therapist is very often the depth of the training, the time, how long it goes on. We both went through training as analysts, which is about the most comprehensive you can get. That doesn't mean there can't be some very talented people out there who do it a different way. There are always the exception to the rule, and I know some, I'm sure you know some too, people who have done their own training differently, have gone to their own training program. They formed their own training program with somebody. They've been through their own analysis, and they do wonderful work. But those are the exceptions to the rule. Not that I'm saying everybody who goes through the kind of training that we went through are great and wonderful, because that's not true either.
What the emphasis that Donald was saying is that the intensity of, particularly our own being supervised by people who are going to listen to our blocks. And Donald said before, I think it was on this tape, that we never know who is going to walk into our office and what problems they're going to bring to us.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. So the only way you can be prepared, and the supervision process and also the analysis, is to prepare us to see and identify blocks that we have. For instance, supposing somebody walks into my office or anyone's office. It might be a homosexual person, gay, and he could walk in, and after a few sessions he might start to talk about how he's attracted to me or to Donald, how he's very turned on. And he talks about how fantasies, he's been having fantasies, and he said he's very, very strongly attracted, and he would like to talk in detail about some sexual act that he would like to perform. Details. So we have to be very comfortable with our own homoerotic feelings. We have to be comfortable with that. If we say, no, that's not part of me, see, I think it's part of everybody. We're all bisexual in some way. So that's what I think. So we go in different directions, but we all have that propensity. So if somebody walks into our office, that was Donald talk about, and you have to be prepared to say, do I have any blocks in myself that have some ring of homophobia?
It could be even simpler than that. If you're uncomfortable with your own sexuality, and someone comes in who's, for example, gay, to use your example, and it makes you uncomfortable, that's going to already have an impact on the therapy.
Of course, yes, that's what I was saying.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not just, I'm just picking on that. You know why I picked on that one? Because it's a difficult one. It's more difficult than other things that somebody might bring in terms of not to talk those blocks that you're going to get. They're going to get you right there.
Yeah,
you're not prepared.
But there are so many that can go. I mean, it could be for us. It could be a woman who comes in, who's flirting with us, and who thinks we're super studs, and we know that's not why she's there. That's not why she came. And if we were a bartender, we might respond differently by hitting upon her. But we don't do that. That's not what we do. Someone comes in really angry,
So it could be anything. It
could be anything.
Anger. It could be with a sexual feeling, an inhibition. They could be very inhibited.
It could be anything.
And maybe they can't feel like they can't talk too much to us. So are we going to be the kind of therapist that needs to have somebody talk, or can we tolerate silence? Silence is very difficult. What about depression and hopelessness?
Mm-hmm.
People can come in extremely hopeless and feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's nowhere to go. Where are they? We're the last resort, and they feel suicidal and feel like killing themselves.
Tough to sit there and handle that kind of material.
Yes.
It's really tough.
And that's why the training that we have, we need to be able to experience that, I think, also within ourselves.
Yes, and still be able to work with it.
Yes.
Not run away, not hide, not throw the patient out. I mean,
we all,
to work with it.
We're human beings, and we have suicidal thoughts from time to time. But we have to say to ourselves, that's okay, we can understand it, because yes, that's how you might think when you're we have been at the end of our rope in our life at some point. We all have. We can't say, oh, it's out there. Only the patients have it.
No, we have struggles.
Yeah, and like some groups in our society would say, oh, well, we don't have any propensity to abuse children. other people out there. They're out there that abuse children.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's why our training is so important to us and so intense. And it is intense, 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week, for many years. And we're closely supervised. And we want to be, because we know we're going to have blocks in our life. And somebody is going to come in, and they might be talking about repetition compulsion, how they pick the same man or woman over and over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. Might be a man, might be a woman. The therapist could be have a man come in very attracted to her. He might tick off that same repetition compulsion in her unconscious that says, and she hasn't been aware of it, or he hasn't been aware of how they have a propensity to pick the same people over and over and over again. So this is what our supervision and training helps us recognize, that there's a reason for this. This doesn't happen by accident. If we don't understand that, and we may not, so we're in supervision and we're in analysis, so we can understand that there's a meaning to behavior that's more than the surface. And if we can't understand that, we're not going to be able to help our patients understand it. That's why our training is so important. It's like the woman who came into my group in the training group that I had a second. So she skipped out. She didn't come for 2 weeks because she was so embarrassed about her feelings of sexuality feeling sexual toward her male patient. Well, she's human, but she felt it was wrong, and couldn't accept it until she came into the group and was able to say it. And everybody said, "Oh, I have the same feelings. I didn't want to talk about it either."
Yeah, sure.
So we're human, but our training prepares us hopefully for most of this.
Yeah, and even with all the training that we go through, sometimes things happen that get past us.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I had a person talking about something happened to them as a child that was so horrific that a tear came to my eye. Which is unusual for me, frankly, that I have that kind of reaction. I was just taken back, not just by the action, but by the action of what happened, but by how this person was treated because of what happened. And the patient saw the tear in my eye, and it made a difference. She understood that was my compassion, that was my feeling, so sad and upset for her. This was a horrific thing she went through. That no one should ever have to go through that kind of experience. And so it worked out okay. But sometimes, I remember an early experience in my training when I was still a novice, I had a lot of trouble with one patient who came in, had a countertransference reaction. The patient would put up a wall of words and literally tell me not to say anything, not to talk, not to interrupt him. And he would talk for the full session. Often he would finish what he was going to say in about a half hour or so, and then he'd start again as if it was all new material. And he was repeating what he just said before. I found that very difficult. I would still find that difficult. I mean, I had a kind of transference reaction. It was clearly my feeling, not in the room. I didn't exist. I was helpless. I had no role to play. I didn't like it. It was hard. But that's part of learning. That's part of what we learn to do.
And sometimes people feel like we, as therapists, we don't have feelings, we don't react, and mostly it's our job to contain ourselves.
Sure.
And not react, because then you're taking over someone else's experience and you're making it more yours than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So like what Donald was saying, he had a tear came up to his eye because he was feeling for that person. And I had a similar experience of a person who I was working with, couple, and they were talking about this horrific incident that that happened. Now this happened, and they talked about it, and particularly the woman, time and time again, but not with the intensity of the feeling that she had when she described how it was for her when her father took a shotgun and blew his brains out. Now that's not in front of her, and it didn't matter. It was something that did happen, and how she interpreted. I mean, he didn't have a consideration about how this would be impacting on her. First of all, he didn't think about that, and she knows it. And also, she also interpreted it as, well, what's wrong with me that he couldn't just stay alive for me? And therefore, since he couldn't, she felt it was something wrong with her.
Sure.
So we all cried together that time. She started to cry, I started to cry, and the husband started to cry. It just felt good to cry, because how can you listen to something like that and not cry? This poor kid who, her whole world crumbled at that time, and she's still not recovered, and we're trying to work on that, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, suicide is a whole different category. I mean, that's just, people don't understand the impact that has on the people who survive, particularly the children who survive. It's just...
Yeah, they're left crying for
it's horrific.
Till the rest of time.
Yeah.
They suffer, you know.
They suffer forever.
And then, but they can get better. But they need to have somebody who can tolerate listening. You know, the minute somebody walks into an office and they have suicidal ideation, or maybe even taking a step further, having a plan, you know, to say that they want to kill themselves, it's very hard to pay attention to that and to listen. Many therapists, if they don't have training, and they're only human, they won't go into it. They will turn away from it.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't said. They might not ask, well, did you ever have thoughts like this before, or did you ever attempt to kill yourself before? Which may or may not be a question that you may want to ask, but the idea is that it's the minute somebody says this, you just don't, therapists who are not equipped to listen to that, they won't.
They get scared.
Yeah.
They get scared.
Yeah.
You know, we have dealt with all kinds of suicidal ideation in our work over the years.
Lots.
It's never easy.
No.
But, you know, we do what we know we need to do.
And the beginning therapists often have a fantasy, oh my God, you know, it's going to be on the front page of the Times.
Right.
And, you know, I'm going to be the one who's going to be the terrible therapist who is responsible for this person's death, which is not at all true. They're responsible, but that's how people feel. And also...
it's a personal failure.
Yeah, it's personal failure. So it's, yeah.
My colleagues will think less of me. I better quit the field, you know. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good at this. The self-condemnation is awful sometimes.
It's like Jane, who I worked with, that I talked a lot about how I wanted to quit the profession because she was continually attacking me. And I couldn't admit to how angry I was. That would be perhaps, I would consider an objective reaction to be angry at her if she's always attacking me all the time. But I couldn't admit that I was angry. That was my problem. So once I did that, and that was my countertransference, and she was able to calm down, because I wasn't trying to get her to talk either. I gave up feeling defensive. I gave up that business, and I was aware of my countertransference, and I was aware of how she attacked me just like her mother attacked her. So I saw a different perspective on it. And also she told me a little later on that how I was now listening to her, because I wasn't trying to get her to be close to me. And that's the very thing that frightened the most of her mother. Her mother was always trying to get her to feel, to be a part of her. And she couldn't stand that. She couldn't stand her mother saying, oh, I want to be one with the world.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah.
repetition compulsion.
Yeah.
You know,
And she was repeating with me the same scenario with her mother, and I was performing a part that I didn't recognize for a while, and once I did, then it could stop.
right, but that's not so easy. Easy to say, not so easy to do and understand.
No, because these therapists that she had before ditched her.
Right.
They didn't stay with her. One woman said her therapist she liked very much. Therapist went away to Europe, and when she came back, she met her on the street. She promised to come back and work with her. She met her on the street, and she said to the patient, she said, "I just couldn't do it anymore."
Wow.
What kind of message is that? Again, you're not good enough. She left her.
It's a therapist who has a real countertransference issue, did not understand what she was facing, did not understand the material, nor did she understand herself.
And so I was better than that therapist, and I'll say it, yes, I was, because I didn't desert her. I went through the rage attacks that she had on me. I went through my countertransference. I understood it. It was very hard for me. That's the kind of patient who my supervisor said people would have gotten rid of her. Most therapists would have gotten rid of her because she was so antagonistic, but I didn't, because I stayed with her.
You know something? She had reason to be angry with her mother.
Yeah.
Her mother failed her miserably, and she had reason to be, depressed and furious with this person who abandoned her, who didn't listen to her.
Right, and wanted to take all the credit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're cleaning your room for me. No,
right.
Mom. I'm cleaning it for myself.
For myself. Yeah. And so you caught it. You understood what the transference was, and it was hard, but it didn't blow you away. You didn't abandon her like the other person did.
And so how many people in the audience might identify with the parents who are saying to them, "Oh, you're doing it for me. You're doing it for me. You're doing what? I'm doing it for you." And they're not recognizing that there's this an independent being there who exists independently, wants to strive for independence, and is being reined in because that person wants them to be part of them.
Yeah, and all their accomplishments is a reflection of me, the parent.
Like your patient.
Not them.
Yes.
Yeah.
The mother couldn't tolerate. That's the cases
yeah.
where the incest with the mother continued until the boy was 21 years old.
In his 20s, yeah.
Yeah,
and which is, yeah.
And she could not have him be a separate, vital person in his own right.
Right.
So, and that's an extreme example, but Jane is with her mother is another example, and another examples, many examples of where children are raised and they're told, what is it? Children are to be seen and not heard.
Right.
I had somebody I was working with, and he was so smart as a kid. He was so smart. And when he shined, his father said, "You're stupid." Not when, but the message from the father to him was, "You're stupid." Not that you're smart. And then when he screwed up a little bit with his behavior, his father would hit him with a belt really hard. I mean, and so he became a bully. Of course, he became a bully in life. How could he not become a bully?
Yeah, he was bullied.
So we try to identify the bully in us.
That's a nice, poignant way of putting it.
Yeah. True.
So that's what makes what we do different than talking to, a loved one, a good buddy, a friend, a spouse, a stranger like a bartender or your barber. It's not the same.
No, and we're different from some of the groups out there who say everything that is unacceptable is not associated with me. It's out there.
Yeah.
We are trying to bring that into us and identify how we are like the most unacceptable parts of what they say is out there. We're trying to bring it in and say it's in us and identify with us. So if somebody walks in our room, we can be freer and not think that, oh, It's out there. This is not. This bully is not. Oh, I'm not a bully. I don't have any bully in me. Sure. You know, everyone has a little sadism in them. The problem is not that they have it, it's what they do with it.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there in the world as we see now, you know, with what's happening with women, you know, and identifying people who have abused them. And this has been going on ad infinitum, you know, abuse and taken advantage of, and talk about power, but we have to identify these things within us, and that's I think the main thing in some ways for me is to identify what's inside myself that I tend to project outward or say it's not me, because when that person who I'm saying it's not is walks into the room, I have to be able to have some empathy for them, whoever they are.
You know, what makes the therapy work was exactly what you were experiencing. You said a few minutes ago about you could feel angry at this person and not express it and not push her away, but you could tolerate it because you understood that it was not Mark Sehl who she was really angry with. She was angry with a mother. She was angry with a parent who failed her miserably. And it was being reenacted in some way with you, with real feelings. And it's that, just that fact alone, because they were real feelings, that gives that person a chance to have it come out a different way this time. So it's not from a book. You can't get this from a book. You know, you can't get this from, you know, from drinking or having sex or whatever. It's done, the kind of work that we do, and it takes time and it takes patience on both of our parts, the patient's part and our part. Right. It's just it's someone once told me sometimes the long road is the only road, and that's true. Sometimes the long road is the only road.
I think I'm watching the clock. You know, I think it's right now, and we could have a propensity. So, how about stopping now, and we can come back to this.
Sure.
Identify things that maybe we haven't addressed, and maybe if people haven't questions for us, you know, they can reach Donald at Dr. Donald Mars at AOL.com. That's his email. And his website is Dr. Donald Mars, MARS.com. That's where you can find him. He has videos up there too about that case, particularly, you know, the incest. And I have stuff on mine, as you know, too, marksehl.com, and psychotherapy videos. And oh, we have a podcast, Therapy for the Heart. Don't forget that. If you just go to soundcloud.com and put in Therapy for the Heart, and you'll find a whole list of podcasts that are very much related to the content that we're on with the videos, but it's different. It's audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have. So anything else you'd like to say?
Just that if someone wants to talk to me, I would much prefer talking than email.
Mm-hmm. Give him your phone number.
Yeah, 212-682-7568.
So very good. So thank you for being here with us. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have something to talk about, because this YouTube is to try to bring psychotherapy to the general public and make it comprehensible and not like some mystique. So we hope we did that tonight. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.